right, so here we are, and we're about to review Suicide Squad, which we went to the theater to watch all together.
We did.
I'm going to go right to Alex first. You were probably the most excited out of anybody I know for this movie. I know leading up to it, you kept citing it as like your most anticipated movie of the year. You really liked what the trailers were showing. So how did it end up for you?
It's the kind of movie I'm gonna really look forward to because I've always liked the villains more in the comic books than the heroes, and DC's definitely. I mean, other than Batman, I don't really like the DC heroes in general that much, but they have some of the best villains.
Yeah. I've always felt Marvel does the heroes better. DC does the villains better.
And I've always liked Joker. I've always liked Harley Quinn. Admittedly, I didn't know a lot of the other villains too well. But to be perfectly honest, it's Suicide Squad, yes, but a lot of the time it's mostly about Harley Quinn and Deadshot. And I don't think that's really an exception for this movie.
I think that no matter what movie it is, if it's an ensemble movie, there's people that are the focus, and then there's the supporting cast, right? Yeah. You know, Avengers is really Iron Man and Captain America, and it's benefited from that. X-Men, depending on the movie, it's usually Wolverine, and then there's a supporting cast. Yeah. So that was inevitable. You knew that this one was going to be Deadshot and Harley Quinn, and the other guys were there for added flavor, for a little bit of variety. It wasn't, it's tough. I mean, the movie was already over 2 hours. 2 hours and 3 minutes or something. If you put more focus on every character in a group like that, the movie's going to go forever.
Oh, yeah. And definitely they kept the focus pretty much on Harley Quinn and Deadshot.
It was nice that they did give you a little bit of backstory for each of them.
I actually really liked the way they did that. I liked the way they had like a quick little snippet intro for each of the characters.
They were like dossiers, right? Yeah. Like it really felt like you're reading a dossier about the character.
They gave you enough about each of the characters. Yeah. They were more than just there as support, but at the same time they kept it nice and short, and they did it quick and snappy, which is definitely, I think, the way they should be doing it, and I like the way they did that part.
I mean, like, the only thing I'm concerned with this movie is that it felt a little bit disconjunct at points. Like, there was kind of jumping around a lot.
Well, that's another thing that happens with those quick snippets. As quick as they are, they add up when there's so many of them, and that takes away from runtime for other storylines. And I know I actually agree with this. It was one thing that was kind of a bit more of a universal critique, is that they focused a little bit too much on multiple storylines. Yeah. And as a result, the main storyline did end up losing a little bit of steam there. And I for one, agree with that. I think that I don't want to slam on it too bad. It wasn't terrible, but it felt a little disjuncted. It felt unfocused.
Well, like, okay, if you just take the way that they did the heroes versus villains, or in this case, villains versus more villains, like they put a little bit of focus on like the Joker-Harley Quinn relationship, and you thought, okay, maybe Joker's kind of like a bit of the bad guy, but then they had Enchantress, and Enchantress was meant to be the main focus of the movie for the bad guy.
She didn't do anything for me, honestly.
I didn't feel that either.
I think there was a nifty character there, but they kind of just made her there. One of the things with the main storyline of this movie is that the main storyline isn't particularly important.
Yeah, no, and that's why it's unfocused.
It's basically, it's there for Harley Quinn and Deadshot to have something to do. Like, the main story when it comes to Suicide Squad in general is how the Suicide Squad generally fixes things that the government has done badly and they don't want heroes to know. And in this case, that pretty much was it. It kind of, but,
I think my biggest problem with this movie, the way they did it compared to other superhero movies, is that every superhero movie kind of follows a very strict formula. It's kind of like you have a bunch of the heroes get together and they don't quite mesh right, and they have that kind of like point where they have an all is lost moment, like the bad guys are winning. and we need to get our stuff together. And then they rally and they defeat the bad guys, right? And that's kind of like the formula of any of these superhero movies. I felt that rally was really weak. Like, they're just sitting in the bar and they're just like, yeah, I guess I'm going to go do this. Oh, I guess I have nothing better to do too, so I guess I'll join you. Like, it didn't feel...
It also kind of felt like they didn't really have that moment where they weren't meshing. I mean, they didn't really like each other at any point, but they seemed way too friendly.
Yes, I mean, at the beginning, when they all just kind of like were thrown into the mix, I think they should have been beating on each other, doing stupid stuff, trying to kill each other. Like, it would have been so much more entertaining to have that.
They kind of like gave like the spoke the speak of villains, but didn't really act like villains. No. And I think that took away from my opinion. Like, Harley Quinn, honestly, she wasn't crazy in this, and I think there's a problem with that. She's supposed to be crazy.
Yeah. Well, see, in a lot of hero ensemble movies, they get together, they have a common goal. In villain ones, you would presume they don't, but in this one, they did, because if they didn't, they would die, right? So, and I mean, that's not really a spoiler. That's always been the premise of Suicide Squad, is that the government pretty much holds them at captive, that if they don't, they're going to die.
Yeah.
But again, as Alex would say, yes, they had a common goal in survival, but they really did, like, the personalities fused way too well.
Yeah.
You know, there was a little bit of tension, but it was like...
Not nearly enough to make it
exactly. And I mean, and so badly did you want Deadshot to just be a hero.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that, to me, that was not great. Like, I just, I couldn't buy into it. Like, he's supposed to be a villain, and he just had way too many heroic traits.
Yeah.
But that's besides the point. There was a bit of an unfocus, and to me, like Alex said, or maybe it was you, Enchantress didn't really pose a threat.
No.
This isn't really, like, part of the movie, but I always have myself a bit of a difficult time just, separating from the overall story arc. Let's just assume, hypothetically, they failed. Well, what's Batman doing? Where's the Flash? Like, the big thing about superhero movies to me is, that the hero is going to come out and prevail in the end.
Yeah.
Right? No matter what it is, the hero always comes out. And that's why I didn't like the second Thor, because it didn't seem like he had a threat. The quality of the movie is determined on how much you can buy into the possibility of them failing.
Yeah.
Or how you can be almost stumped by, like, how are they going to actually, like...
It's almost like an unbeatable thing. How are they going to get out of it?
Yes, they're going to overcome it, but you get lost in the struggle, the battle to overcome it. In this movie, it was like, and that's the thing about, like, you always know Superman's going to win, but it's how much you buy into the odds stacked against them. It was like, if they fail, the heroes will probably clean up at that point.
Yeah.
And to me, again, that's not a critique of the movie, but it was a factor for me that I didn't buy into the threat. I didn't buy into their overcoming. I was just like, all right, cool.
That's often a problem of the genre in general, I think.
Well, I mean, I find a lot of superhero movies, I don't have a problem, if not accepting the fact that they're going to overcome it, being stumped by, like, how are they going to overcome it? Not that they're going to, but how. Like, this, it seems so impossible. And I know they're going to do it, but I can't think of how. And I get caught up in that. In this, it was just like, just kind of go do your thing, right? Like, I didn't buy into the threat.
Yeah.
And I think a part of that is also because it was so unfocused. All the time, which is a small amount, that they put into the Joker could have been spent actually filling out the threat of Enchantress,
yes,
and what was actually going on.
See, it would have been nice. My personal opinion on how they could have gone with the storyline is because she had her brother, right? When she freed her brother, and her brother gave her some of her his power so she could survive without her heart, right? Like, if she could have gone off and been working on something kind of in the background, and we see a little bit of that, but he was kind of like the immediate threat, and then the villains had to work together to try and stop the brother. Meanwhile, this bigger threat is happening. I don't know, I would have been more sold by it, I guess. It just felt so weak the way they were just like, oh, there's these bad guys, here you go, see you later, and then it was done.
Basically, this is one thing I also don't like about this. They just sent minions until the final fight.
Yeah.
I really don't like that. You need to have more of a consistent threat, or you need to have the threat. If you're going to have it only be in a final battle, it needs to be completely invisible until then.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, you had the villains, you saw what they were doing, but they weren't an immediate threat to anyone because you were just seeing what they were doing while they sent out minions. You need to do it one way or the other.
It's true. So, how do we feel about, like, characters? I know, Alex, you said you weren't quite sold on Harley Quinn because, I mean, she wasn't crazy enough.
She definitely wasn't crazy enough.
I think overall, my personal opinion, I think she did a decent job.
I thought she
definitely looked the part.
I thought she did a good job of, looking the part.
You mean Margot Robbie, like the actual actress? Not
I thought she did a good job. I thought she did a good job with the attitude part of it. It was more of a didn't actually feel particularly crazy type thing. I actually really liked Will Smith as Deadshot.
Surprisingly
enough.
I will be the first to say I apologize for my stubbornness. When I heard he was going to play Deadshot, I was very much against it.
Yeah, me too.
Not that I don't have any sort of respect for Will Smith or that I undervalue his performance, but there's those times where you hear a casting choice and you're just like, I just don't see it.
Yeah.
I did not think, and to this day, I still don't think that he's necessarily a good Deadshot, but the Deadshot representation they give us in the movie,
bad.
He did good.
Yes.
And to me, he was actually the highlight of the movie. The thing that I was most against, I guess, going into it, because I really didn't have too many expectations, ended up being, to me, the best part of it. Because Will Smith, as much as the whole time I wanted him to just end up being like, I'm a hero now, right? He had a great delivery, and he had those great lines, and he had the motivation. Like his daughter, which he was, as well one of the most fleshed out ones because he was one of the leads. Yeah. He ended up being like the best one.
Yeah,
I like his interactions with Harley Quinn, which was
part of the movie. Those two were definitely the key characters there.
Really well together. I thought the side cast was pretty good too. For what they were there for.
I really don't have a complaint with them.
No.
They were cast for short roles.
Yeah.
They didn't have a lot of responsibilities, but none of them were poorly done.
Yeah.
I mean, Captain Boomerang was entertaining. He was just kind of like off the wall, yelling at stuff, doing kind of
Killer
weird things.
Croc was a simple-minded brute who was there for muscle and a couple of quick liners. Like, even, was it Diablo?
Yeah.
I really liked his character, like his, internal struggle.
Mm-hmm. You definitely saw that with him.
There was no issue with the side cast.
Yeah.
Even Rick Flag was, serviceable.
He was regular, military dude. So.
Amanda Waller was as deceitful as ever.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, I thought the weakest part of the movie was going to be the Joker. Just from the looks and the commercial. I didn't think he was great, but he didn't ruin the movie. He definitely didn't do what Lex Luthor did to Batman versus Superman.
You can say he didn't ruin the movie, but there's no doubt in my mind that he was the worst part of it.
He felt pretty unnecessary for the most part to be there.
And I think that's just, again, going back to the storylines kind of like just unfocused, right? Mm. They spent time on him when they really didn't need to.
No, they didn't. That movie would not have suffered if he was not in it.
No.
And don't get me wrong, I'm a fan of Jared Leto. I actually thought, when I heard the casting choice, he's good. I thought this is a good choice. But right from the start, not a fan of how they made his imagery. I also did not like his personality. Joker is definitely crazy. Obviously, I don't know if it's fair, but, Heath Ledger was a little bit more of a strategic, crazy, a more reserved, off the hinges type character, where Jared Leto went more just off the wall, over the top. And it just didn't work for me. Maybe, because there's been a lot of talk that a lot of his scenes were left on the cutting room floor.
Yeah.
Maybe there's something there that would have made it connect a little bit better.
Yeah.
But for me, the character, the role, just did not click.
It seemed like he just said crazy things just to say crazy things. But at the same time, the actual actions he did were so focused. The very few scenes he had leading up to his one important part were all towards the one goal. It was way too almost planned.
Object-oriented.
It was way too planned for the Joker. It didn't make sense for his character at all.
Well, see, I mean, as crazy as Joker has always been, he's always also been a genius.
Yeah.
Like, he comes up with genius plans. He's just crazy about it, right? In this, it just seems so free-flowing. It seems so off the cuff. There wasn't that strategic underbelly to his insanity. And, you know, I don't think it was Jared Leto.
No, I don't think so.
I think you could have put any actor there, and it was just unfocused, like a lot of the other movies.
I imagine, though, that, like, I imagine if we had all his scenes, we might have had a bit more focus there.
Well, I mean, we might see that with, like, an extended edition later on,
like,
right? Like,
I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if the extended version is a lot better.
Yeah.
There is actually one character that I think we can all agree was absolutely terrible. The minions, the enemy minions, they didn't look right. They provided for really bad combat situations, almost like a zombie movie where you have just hordes after hordes of them going in, which just doesn't look good.
All I can think of was putties the whole time.
It also made for some really bad chaotic combat. Like in superhero movies, you get a lot of sort of like spots. You get a lot of really cool looking like momentary scenes. And in this movie, there is a great scene where Deadshot's on top of a car and he's just shooting thing after thing after thing, and it looks fantastic. And I think if they had done stuff like that the entire movie, the combat would have looked really great.
Yeah.
But a lot of the time, it was just chaotic swinging around, killing things, right? And that didn't really feel particularly good for the for that part of the movie.
Okay.
Would have been better if it was the actual minions. The little yellow guys. No, I agree with you, Alex. Like, and again, much like the other parts that were unfocused, it was just like, why is she turning these people? Or how? You know, okay, why? She was building an army. But it's like, okay, cool. She's
magic.
Pushing people into a magic thing, and they're turning into minions, and now they're evil. Like,
it is a tough part.
It was so flimsy.
With having an enemy that uses magic, it can be kind of tough sometimes because you kind of, where's the boundaries, right? Like, at least when you use like a specific power that someone has, like, okay, well, we know what their power does.
Well, that's what I mean, right? Like, a lot of it was just, okay, you didn't explain any of it.
Yeah.
It's just, it's happening.
Yeah, you can't really take a character that very few people who know the DC, like, who just know the general DC stuff. Nobody knows her, and you give her stuff that usually isn't a... I mean, yes, there's magic in the superhero world, but that's not really at the forefront.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, this might be more of a spoiler than some people want to hear, but, like, she was being controlled by Amanda Waller having control of her heart.
Yeah.
And then she goes and stabs it to death, and her brother's just like, no, I got you. Here's some power. It's like, so the big threat, like, you can just overcome it. It's almost like she built that portal to the other plane or whatever it was, because they didn't explain it, and, like, they destroy it, right? The big outcome. And I'm just sitting here thinking, but she can just make another one.
Yeah.
The first one was made by the snap of a finger. It wasn't like there was a big quest in the beginning of the movie to uncover some ancient artifact or find the materials or even a location where the link between the universes is right. She just made it in the blink of an eye. And this is another reason why, like, I couldn't buy into it, because I'm like, she made the portal with no effort and no prior necessity. If they destroy it, what's to stop her from going, there's a portal again?
She could just, I mean, it did take her some time, but at the same time, she could just be like, well, I'm just going to teleport to the other side of the world and do the same thing.
But that's what I mean, right? Like, the heart wasn't a factor. She needed no resources to make the portal. We don't know where the minions were coming from. It was all just like, here, stuff's happening. We don't need to explain it.
Yeah, magic users is a bad mix, I think, for comics.
And that's just it. When you're going to make a Suicide Squad movie, you have other villains to pick from.
You have so many villains, questionable heroes. You have so many other characters that are a lot more well-known to choose from.
I think they just really wanted an excuse to have some special effects.
Hey, you know what? The special effects were good in the movie. Good. I mean, if there's one thing that I really can't complain about, it was the special effects. As unmotivated, as weird as the minions were, they were all done well, looked good, CGI. Diablo's fire effects, you know, all of that was good. Even the brother, when they had the battle, It looked solid, seamless.
Yeah.
There's no issues with it. But you need a reason for these special effects, not just to have them.
The movie in general did kind of feel like just a reason to bring the Suicide Squad together and do a cool DC villain movie.
Maybe it's not a fair comparison, but, Assault on Arkham, was a fantastic animated movie with the Suicide Squad. And I think one of the reasons that I liked it so much was because of how much humor was in it. And this movie was a couple of lines.
A couple one-liners, yeah.
There was a couple of one-liners, but it didn't have, again, okay, I'm sure they're not using that as their basis. They're not, how do we make a, live-action version of
Assault on Arkham?
Assault on Arkham. But the fact of the matter is, in this, they didn't even really try. There was a couple of, one-liners, and it's like, it didn't have the personality that I expect from the Suicide Squad.
A lot of the jokes just fell flat. You could tell they're trying to be funny, and it's just like, it's not really funny.
I think there was literally 2 times where in the entire theater, Alex was the only one laughing. And even I couldn't understand why he was laughing.
I admit I laughed at a lot of things that I don't think were, purposeful jokes.
No, there was a couple that, you could tell that they were trying to go for a punchline, and nobody laughed except for you.
That's
and
great.
You know what? That's fine if he laughed.
Yeah.
But when you're going for a punchline, it should be more than one person in the
You
theater
would want
laughing,
the whole
right?
theater to be laughing.
And that was it, It lost a lot of the character. Like Assault on Arkham was great because it had that personality. This did not have that personality.
Yeah.
So, I really don't know what else to say about it.
No, it's fine. It has good and bad. It's really just kind of there.
Yeah, it has good and bad. I definitely enjoyed it quite a bit.
I'm not regretting going.
I found a lot of parts funny, even if other people didn't.
Well, and that's just it. Only you have to enjoy it.
Yeah. It's definitely not one of the better superhero movies I've seen. It probably is, out of the DC movies, though, probably my favorite, other than Batman.
That's not...
Which isn't saying much.
No, that's not putting the bar very up there.
Which isn't saying much, but it says at least a little bit.
But there's some telling things. Apparently, there's rumors that they're looking at a Harley Quinn movie. There was some talks in an interview where Jared Leto said that he was essentially misled about what this role was when he was approached with it, which got some heat. So even apparently he wasn't happy with it. But you didn't regret seeing it. So Josh, give us a score and a bit of a summary here.
So I'm going 5 out of 10. I'm just right down the middle. It's passable. There are some good parts about it, but it kind of fell flat in others. So, again, I don't regret seeing it, but will I go see it again? Not in the theater. No, maybe I'll rent it or download it or whatever.
I'm going to go with, you're doing you last because you were the one waiting. This was your movie. You're going last. I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10.
Really? Okay.
Just a little above average. Because my expectations were not super high for it going into it. And there was enough special effects, decent combat that I could sit through it. Again, okay. I don't want to rush to see it again. But I didn't regret seeing it, which lately, especially with DC movies, I have. Mm-hmm. There definitely is some points that could have been saved if some interactions between characters and personalities and motivations were fleshed out. But overall, it was just a little above average.
I thought it was an overall decent movie, but I definitely believe that it's sort of a acquired taste, and some people are definitely going to like it less, and some people are going to like it more. I'm giving it a 7 out of 10. Personally, I think I enjoyed it more than a 7 out of 10, but I don't think it deserves overall
being more objective about it, right?
And I think that 7 out of 10 is fairly... I can definitely say to other people that I would recommend seeing it, but I can also see why other people might not enjoy it as much.
Just out of curiosity, what would your personal enjoyment be on it?
8 out of 10.
You know what? That's fair, right? It's not an amazing movie.
It's not a great movie. But it's a movie I'm going to have in my collection once it comes out, and I consider that to be sort of the 7-8 area once I start getting into there.
Fair enough. Everybody has different reasons why they like different movies. That's why there's reviews out there. Otherwise, everybody would think the same thing. So thanks for joining us. Let us know what you thought about Suicide Squad. Leave a comment in the bottom if you thought it was good, if you thought it was bad, if you thought it needs a sequel. Other than that, we'll see you next time. Hey, did you like that video? If you did, be sure to let us know by clicking the like button and leaving a comment. If you want to be first in line for any new content, be sure to subscribe to our channel and then hit up our Facebook page. The link's in the description below to see what's coming up next.